Hi, my name is Susan Muma. Susan Muma. I'm the Youth Development Specialist for the Omak District. And I want to welcome the Youth Council, and they will introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Shayana Carden. I am the Omak District's Youth Council President. I am from the Colville tribe. My bands are Lakes, Okanagan, Colville, and Wenatchee. I go to Omak High School, and I am in 11th grade.
My name is Town Kate, and my position in Youth Council is Vice President. My bands are Moses Columbia, Colville, Iniat, Wenatchee, and Spokane. I go to Omak High School, and I am in the 11th grade.
Hello, I'm Jose Condon, and I'm treasurer of the Colville Confederate Tribe. I'm in 11th grade and go to Omak High School.
Hi, I'm Alexis Gomez. I am the secretary of the Youth Council, and I am part of the Okanagan descendant from Okanagan tribe, and I am currently a senior at Omak High School.
Hello, I'm Kylie Canales. I am Sergeant at Arms, and my tribal bands are Colville, Descendant, and Sioux. I go to Omak High School, and I am at the 11th grade.
Good evening. My name is Tashina Gore, and I work for the Colville Tribal Youth Development Program here in the Omak District, and I will be reading the debate rules. So the first rule is time limits. Each candidate will have a set time for opening statements, responses, and closing. So there is a time clock that we will be using. So you will have 2 minutes. The second rule, moderation. A design moderator youth will facilitate the debate, ensuring fair and orderly discussion. The moderators have the authority to enforce rules and maintain decorum. Number 3, the question format. The candidates will be given equal opportunity to respond. No direct rebuttals unless specified by the moderator. Number 4, conduct. Candidates must remain respectful and professional. Personal attacks, interruptions, or inflammatory language will not be tolerated. Repeated violations may result in a time deduction or removal from debate. Number 5, audience participation. The audience is encouraged to attend and listen, but must remain respectful. No disruptions, shouting, or commentary during candidate responses. We thank you for your cooperation.
We would like you guys to introduce yourselves now. Let's start at that end.
Hello, can you hear me? Oh. My name is Clayton Yellowwolf, and I am a Colville member, I guess. My bands are Nez Perce, Okanagan, Met Howell Lakes. There's a list of like 10. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Michael Marchand. I mostly work with the Iniat, Wenatchee, and Senex issues in recent years anyway, but I'm probably related to most of the bands. Oh, my Indian name is Qualtamine, which means Wolverine. Thank you.
Are we ready?
I'm Preston Boyd, and I'm a candidate in position 1. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me. My name is Norma Sanchez. I hyphen my name Kate because most people don't know me by my last name. I'm a member of the Met Howell Moses Columbia Intiat, Wenatchee. My grandparents are Alec Dick and Julianne Dick. My parents are Bernice and Leroy Kate. My great-grandparents were William Sarimt and Solamine Bob. And I reside in Omak. So thank you.
We're going to be starting questions now. So I will start with, our school requires world language credits to graduate, which we only have Spanish available. We have had no native language classes native language classes for years. If elected, would you make this a priority to work on? And if so, what will you do to change this for our native students? We'll start at Norma and
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Omak is the one school district that doesn't have a language speaker. The last one that was there retired. We've been focusing on trying to get somebody into your school district. It's very important that we have language in there. The curriculum was developed, and the problem is that once we get a language speaker up to be certified, they don't want to work in the public school, or they're not classified to work in the public school. So everybody who the language program has asked to contract into Omak school has either declined, or they like teaching in the lower grades or within the tribal reservation. And so it is still a priority. It's never been taking off that list. We just don't have anybody that can teach the curriculum in the language in the Omak school at this time. We've asked 4 different people in the last 2 years, and nobody's ever stepped up and took that position. Unfortunately, we had one who was willing to, but for whatever reason, he was not offered the opportunity to be there. And so I personally think it's very important that we all learn our language, and that if we can start them at the entry level of learning, that's the best opportunity for them to get dual languages. And it took a lot for the tribe to actually get approval to certify our language as a secondary language for a language speaking, to take it as a course to remove or allow that credit into your college application. So it has always been a priority since I've been on the council. So thank you.
Yeah, I too am very much in favor of the native language and learning it. And that's also part of the code of responsibility for councilmen, so they need to look at that. I think with all the budgets that are coming holistically to the reservation and to states, of course everything takes money, so I think we're going to have to look at everything realistically and really take a hard look at our priorities. But yes, I am in favor of language.
I don't want to repeat what they said, but I agree with what these two said, and so I just won't repeat it. But I think it's really important. I also think that the language and context of our whole culture is important. And the school right over here, where St. Mary's Mission, was basically created to erase our culture, destroy our language. My father-in-law was a student there, and my grandparents were there, and if they were ever caught speaking their language, they were punished. And my father-in-law was caught speaking Indian. This is middle of the winter, it gets cold here, and it's like 20 below zero. They locked him in the basement of the church for saying something in Indian, and that's kind of things that went on here, and that's worse things that went on here too. But so they spent about 100 years trying to un-Indianize us, and so I think it's really important that we kind of reverse that clock and go back to being Indians again. And I think I support what's going on in Omak and all districts. But I also wish this school could start making more progress. And I was we were pretty involved with this building, the council, but that's just a start, you know. And then I'd like to see us be a high school. I'd like to see language and more cultural activities be important, and you know, a lot of it had to do with families and relationships, and like half these guys are my cousins or distant cousins here probably, but those things are all important, you know. And I just like to see us kind of, my goal would be try to get us back, in, at least culturally back in time like 1800s when everyone was Indians, you know. I think things worked pretty good. Today we got problems with alcohol, drugs, and on and on and on, you know. And I know it's not all language, it's not all culture, but those are big pieces of the puzzle, so thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think our language is important and it's very valuable to our people. I mean, I went to school here from kindergarten to 9th grade, and I had language class every grade. And it's very unfortunate now that the Omak School District doesn't have a language program anymore. And it would be very important for us to try to find a way, and it sounds like it's a very complex issue, to get another teacher back into that. And yeah, thank you.
What strategies do you have to better the communication between the tribal council and the members? We'll start at that end. Clayton.
What was the question again?
What strategies do you have to better the communication between the tribal council and the tribal members?
Well, I think, you know, the first one would be, you know, communicating through social media would be a lot easier for everybody to kind of hear and understand what's going on, and even possibly having a meeting with, like, you know, your, as an individual, you know, you want to come out and offer food and have everybody come and talk to you and ask questions and have a deeper conversation on a random Saturday, Sunday, you know, to continue the dialogue and constantly hear from membership and be open to the new ideas and whatever else we can achieve as a team, because we are a team, we're a district, and we want to keep pushing our issues and what we need for our district, as well as, you know, the tribe's issues as well. So yeah, I guess social media, trying to really make sure you get out in the community and be a part of everything and be there.
I think we need to try different new things, and I've been involved with some of the things in the past, and I didn't think they worked very well. And like you try to write things, and I mean, it's not bad, but a lot of people won't read it, you know, or else they think the council's just propaganda or whatever. And then even with meetings, I know the council tries to have meetings, and they do, but oftentimes they're kind of like they're kind of awkward. We'll get staff talking about some subject every month. And it's kind of like being lectured to. After a while, you kind of hard to listen, you know. And so I think we need meetings where the tribe can speak up, and the tribe can create ideas, and the tribe can kind of drive the process somewhat. So it needs to be back and forth more. And I guess the other thing that's happened is that the whole tribe has changed, you know. And over half our tribe doesn't live here anymore. Over half our tribe lives somewhere else, you know. And so, and they're still tribal members even if they don't live here. And I guess I would like to spend more time on that. You know, we have a lot of Colvilles living in Spokane, a lot of Colvilles living in Seattle, and we probably can't meet everywhere there's a Colville, because there's Colvilles all around the world, but maybe the top 3 or 4 cities we could have meetings. And I know there are some tribes that do that, and like some of the bigger tribes, they meet in every big city in every state in the United States, like Cherokees do that. We're not that big, but I think we could probably meet some in the Northwest, maybe not all the time, but sometimes. Then also, what services do we provide tribal members who are not here, you know? And so it's kind of difficult because it all costs money, you know, But if you're a tribal member in Seattle, what do you get out of the Colville tribe? You know, what do we do for you, or what can you do for the Colville tribe? But I think it goes both ways. So thank you.
Okay. I think what I'm hearing from the membership, whole lot of is communication, transparency. So I'd like to that brought to the table. I think we can do that in a lot of different mediums. Bring the things to the people. Meetings, more meetings. And I think we can do a whole lot of things in infrastructure. I mean, I've been retired from the tribe for 6 years, you know, and to try to call Indian Health Service or try to call anybody in particular with the tribe, you don't get anybody returning your calls. So I think that infrastructure-wise, I think we have a the different tier process where everybody has a supervisor. So I think we can start at the top and have those expectations brought down to everybody. Share the importance of communication, training, and because it's pretty frustrating for the people out here that don't, especially the elders. I'm getting to be an elder, just turned 72, so not having all the computers and all the software. He says, I think we're the last to hear things, so I think it's important that we exercise a lot of different ways collectively to try to get word out, communication to people, especially for benefits they're going to put out, you know, food and different things that are important to people in the community.
Thank you. You know, we actually implemented technology and social media for like TikTok and the tribe's social media page in itself, and set it up so the algorithm would pull it up so that it's actually the tribe site that gets pulled up first, so that you're not looking at the other site that's administrated by a membership or a different group. And in there, the communication goes both ways. So we conduct business on a regular basis, but we don't know there's an issue unless somebody reaches out to us. And in order to address an issue, we have to know that there's an issue there. We want to be able to communicate on a regular basis, just like anybody has the right to come into council and ask to be heard in a committee session or even by themselves. You can call or even set up a meeting. Myself personally, I have social media, but that's not for government business. If somebody really has an issue and they want to get a hold of me, they message me on Messenger, because I don't do the social media, especially if it just becomes a negative drama. Then you're spending like 8 hours a day just tracking, you know, the negativity on there. If you message me personally, then I actually respond to you. I will try to get whatever you're looking for, get you an answer back. Also, we do monthly meetings, and every Thursday, the third day or the third week of every month, we do have a district meeting. And if you want anything on that meeting to find out information or see what's going on, or if you hear something or you want something done in your community, you can come to that meeting and give that information to us, and then we'll find all the information and bring it back to you the following month also. And so it's really important that we work together. We can't be clear with each other if we don't know that, you know, what you're thinking or wanting. So thank you.
What is one thing you hope to accomplish in council if you are elected?
So I wanted to retire. I keep hearing it's really awesome to be all old and retired, and I made the conscious choice to not retire and put my name back in, because I'm a seated council member right now. We have a lot of things that are moving parts. Some of them are financial parts for the clinic, to make sure that we get to take that clinic and take ownership of operation with it. That's going up in our district. We also were notified that our school funding would be cut, not just at the state level, but at the federal level for our Head Start that just specifically got built with BIE funding and federal funding. And they also identified all almost every school within our reservation boundary that they were going to cut the funding. And it's really important that we protect that. That's something that's obligated to us in our executive order. It's ratified through Congress that they promised us these things and good health. So right now we're at the middle phase of negotiating all of these federal and state obligations to our tribe, and so I want to ensure that them things move forward and that we continue to protect everything that we've been working on in the last 6 years. And then I also want to see that we get more activities in our community. I want our youth to be able to have a place to go to, and that we don't have to expect them to hang out in the streets when they get out of school. That we also should be considered just like every other district. We're the only district that doesn't have somewhere for our kids to go and just do general either activities and or tutoring. We always have to rely on the other side of the river, and that's not fair to our community just because we are a boundary to the city. And so that's some of a goal of mine. Thank you.
I think there's two areas that I've been reading and talking a whole lot about, and I think a lot of them, I think we're seeing it because a lot of the cuts that are coming down to tribes, and we're going to see it and feel it here in a few months because the federal fiscal year starts in October 30th, September 1. I think right now you're seeing a lot of proposals and a lot of things on social media where the people are just basically what they're doing now is they're making budget proposals. We're seeing a whole lot of things. One of the things I just was reading just today was where they were going to cut off the energy assistance, and that's going to impact a whole lot of people. That's one of the big ones. The administration, the federal administration wants to do now, and there's a lot more coming. I think it's a big need for the tribes to really look at the letter of the law, what they've given to tribes under self-governance. I think what self-governance has been with us for 30 years. Basically, it's a green light for tribes to start looking ahead and start developing their businesses. We have done it somewhat with casinos and stuff, but we're always going to be measured on how much we take and don't take from the federal government. So I'd like to see the tribes, and I think a lot of tribes across the United States are doing that. I've gone to places like Florida, talking to members like you, and I think I'm really proud of that. One of that tribe in Florida, you'd go in their casino, and they have all brown people, Indian people that are employed there. You look up on the streets, all the gas station, the food things and everything, that's all leased land from that tribe. See that they're making money. So I know we have a lot of disparities between things that we can't maximize. I think because where we live, we're very rural. Okay, thank you. I guess I have to cut her off.
Okay, I guess the main thing I'm real concerned about is, I guess, the existence of the tribe, the sovereignty of the tribe, and I think this was a big issue in the 1950s and 60s, and they wanted to terminate the tribe, stroke of a pen, okay, there's no more tribes, and a number of tribes were terminated, and tribes had to kind of band together and fight that off, and then that's happened a few times since then. We had a senator named Slade Gordon who did not like tribes. He always tried to get rid of tribal sovereignty and tribal rights and tribal everything. And the Colvilles were amongst the leaders that got rid of that guy. And we got other tribes to support us, and we got other tribes to contribute money to campaign against this guy. And there were literally people laughing at us saying, "You can't get rid of this Slade Gordon. He's the most powerful senator in the world," some people said. But it wasn't just us, but we were amongst the leaders that did get rid of him. And because he always spoke against tribes. He spoke against our right to exist. He spoke against all our rights. And And I'm really proud to say our Colville tribe was amongst the leaders to get rid of him. And it was a very close race. And he won by or he lost by like 0.5% or something. But I think if the Colvilles weren't in there, he might still be in there. And we supported Senator Maria Cantwell, and she won. And I really believe that if it wasn't for Colville, she wouldn't even be in office, And so I think we're to that point again. And President Trump, he don't like Indians. He's never liked Indians. He don't like any colored people, but he especially hates Indians. And he blames us for all his casinos going broke. I don't think that's true, but he thinks it's true. And anytime he gets a chance to poke at us or get rid of us, he takes it. And I think we need to stop that. And so I think we need to step it up. And we got elections coming up real soon. Colvilles need to be amongst leaders to make sure we get our way.
Well, I am a dad. I have 5 kids. I have a daughter that goes to Omak Middle School. And I think for me, ultimately would be in the 2-year term, it would be to try to clean up the streets, I guess. I'm scared for my daughter to walk from the middle school to the community center to do something, And I'd want a better place for our youth, a better place for our kids to enjoy themselves and do things and have activities and move forward in the world, learn about other things. And that would be my biggest thing is, finding whether there's a boys and girls club or anything, some avenue to help us have a safe space for kids. And then, from that with, economic development. And, finding other ways, other what's the word? I don't know. Other avenues, other business ventures besides just casinos, and to make us a more prosperous tribe and make us more economically diverse tribe, and we can really further separate ourselves from the government so we're not so reliant on just federal funds, and we can have all this extra money for ourselves and build a better business as a tribe.
Do you believe councilmen and women should be held to a higher accountability? If so, what should be done if a council member is caught using or taking inappropriate funds from the tribe? And we'll start on the right.
You're an elected official. I think, you're elected by the people. You have to be held to a higher standard. You're putting yourself out there to be held to a higher standard. And I believe firmly, if you're embezzling funds, there's, I guess, expellment from the council would be the correct thing. I don't think there's any other option. Because if you can't be trusted with our money, why should we trust you at all?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think council should be the highest standard. We should be people that are respected, looked up to by the tribe and other people. And when I was a little kid, 100 years ago, right, people really respected their chiefs. And, I guess they were still in people's memory. I don't see the same thing thought about as most councilmen, and why is that? Well, council aren't perfect either, but I've always supported that, and I've helped remove some councilmen, like whether it's $5 or $100 or $10,000, they shouldn't be on council. If we don't trust them for that, they should go do something else, and so I've always supported that, but I'll just leave with that. But I think we have a strong code in place. I think it works. Maybe it's not perfect, but I think it works. We removed lots of council over the years, and some for what people think is not a lot of money, but I think that's not the issue. If someone uses a tribal credit card for personal or whatever, they should be off the council. And that's what I've always did. Thank you.
I think that's an easy question. Should council be held to a higher standard of accountability? Yes, absolutely. So leaders should lead and set good examples.
Yeah, we take an oath of office that states that we will act in a report that is becoming and fitting a leader. It's not just our own members and our own constituents and our own community that monitor or watch us out there. we are representing not just ourselves, but the whole tribe. And we do have a code of ethics for council. I think it needs to be addressed and updated. We changed it 3 years ago. I didn't agree with all of it. How the votes happen at the table is once it passes by majority, then that is the code. What I disagree with in that code in itself is it states that 30 days from the incident or occurrence that you can't be charged, and that's not true. I think that any time that you stood up and took that oath, as long as you're beholding to that oath, that you should be in the conduct that you said you were going to stand up for. And so that needs to be removed out of that code. It's been discussed about bringing it back and taking it out. I believe that it shouldn't just be limited to funds. It shouldn't be limited to embezzlement. It should be actions. And we have removed people for actions because they knew something was wrong and they still moved forward and did it. We're trying to change the culture of our people to show as leaders that if we want you to walk that road, then we should be walking that same road. If we want you to see that, you know, you can improve your life or that we don't have to be how other people see us, then we should be walking that road. We shouldn't be trying to say one thing and do a different thing. So I think that should all be part of our ethical code, and it shouldn't just be part of either funds or actions. We should be teaching you guys how to live a healthy life.
Tribal descendants do not get very many benefits from the tribe. What are your thoughts on how tribal descendants can be treated in a positive way?
You know, this is a really hard one, not about how we treat a descendant, but how we can help a descendant, because we all should be treated equally. I don't want to treat you any different than I would want to treat my own family, or I don't want somebody to treat me indifferent. The Constitution within our tribal code states that we have to keep things separate, that any federal funding that we receive goes to the membership. The only place that there's a gray area that's beneficial is in our health system. And I think that if we could push this through the Constitution within our Colville tribe, we could actually expand that to start serving our descendants. We all grow up in the same area. We all hang out with the same people. Not so much just descendants, but people who come from everywhere, all across Indian country, are invited into our health system to be served. But at the same time, we shouldn't be looking at an individual as a dollar, because that's not how we look at our own families. That's not how our ancestors looked at our people. I think that we should be ensuring that if we are going to be looking at representation from the individuals who are descendants of our community and our tribe, and they live within our community, that they should be treated as equal to our tribal membership, that they should be able to participate and act and do things within our resources that we have available to them. And so I think that it's important to see how many people we have as a descendancy, and we've been looking at our roles in the last 4 years to see how do we change this. Do we expand our roles out? And so that's something that if you're a descendant, you should ask to come in and speak to us on that, just for yourselves.
Now, what was the question? I mean, fully.
Tribal descendants do not get very many benefits from the tribe. What are your thoughts on how tribal descendants could be treated in a more positive way?
You know, I'm for serving descendants, and we do in some of the areas. If you look at some of the language in Indian Health Service, they do serve, and I think it's outlining, it says it, they will serve first-line descendants in IHS. I seen that a few years ago. And tribe also has a preference category, and I think descendants are in that. So I don't think we should treat descendants like stepchildren, because anybody who has Indian blood defined with Indians, so I think we should we treat them respectfully and include them in a lot of things that we do.
I guess I have a couple thoughts about that. One, we have a system that's been here a long time. We've got this bureaucracy and rules, and it's not going to disappear tomorrow, but it can be improved, I think, and it can accommodate other needs like descendancy more, better. But I guess to me, the whole thing's a problem. The whole thing's a creation of the United States to control us. It's a colonist policy. If you go back to 1800s, when there were thousands of Colville people, no one sat back and waited for the Colville tribe to give them anything. No one did. They didn't expect the Colville tribe to give them anything. We had fishermen on Kettle Falls. We had fishermen at Icicle. We had fishermen at Okanagan. We sent out thousands of buffalo hunters to the Great Plains. They hunted buffalo. They're the ones that hunted the buffalo. They created wealth. They created the economy. We had one of the biggest trading centers in the United States at Kettle Falls. They were generating wealth. They were generating their own jobs. They didn't go to the tribal council and say, put me on the list for a tribal house. No, they went out and created their own wealth, created their own benefits. And I guess, I know that's not going to happen tomorrow, but I think we need to work back towards that again, and I guess to me that's the answer in the future is I'd rather see us empower each Indian and descendants, get them educated, get them trained, I happen to go to college, but I know college is not for a lot of people. They want to be like my dad. He was a carpenter. He didn't care about college. But we need to give people the skills so they don't even need the tribe. You shouldn't have to wait 20 years to get a tribal house. You should be able to get the skills, get the jobs, create your own money, go buy your own house, go buy a mansion, whatever you want, And so I think in the future, that's where the tribe needs to go. I don't think we have enough resources here to give everybody what they want. We just don't, and that's why a lot of our people are leaving. They know it's not here.
I think, so I have a stepdaughter. She's a descendant, and looking at my grandma's my grandma, her great grandkids, my kids are the only kids that are enrolled, so finding a way to empower descendants again would be important, especially with higher education, because I always hear about have friends or cousins like, oh, why don't you're a descendant, you should go get something from the tribe for going to college, and you can't get nothing, and I think finding a way to expand the Constitution and help with any kind of funds for even just education would be great, so it's not just IHS, we can really push and help these kids that, feel like that they're not Indian or they're not Native because they're descendant. I have plenty of friends that say, well, I'm not Native, I'm a descendant, because, they feel like you don't get nothing. So why would I even say it? But it's not about getting anything, just, we gotta find a way to, I guess, the idea of a descendant, and making them feel like they're not Native American because they're a descendant. And we should try to push that narrative away and kind of bring back that, we're all still Native, we're all still people.
So, what are your thoughts on the blood quantum, and should it be lowered?
I think, that's I think it's a polarizing subject for a lot of people, and because then people start thinking about, well, we'll get less, we won't get nothing, but I believe, it should be lowered, or even if not lowered, include all Indian blood into your blood quantum, because it says I'm almost half Colville, but if I had all my Indian blood, I'd probably be closer to 60%, and all my kids would be enrolled, and I think whether it's lowered or just finding different ways to adjust it to make it so we're not bred out, because I think that's the plan with blood quantum, is to breed out us as a people and get them gone, and we just got to find a way to keep us around.
I think that's probably one of the big questions we'll be facing this next decade, or hopefully not too much longer than that. But and I guess I have my opinions about what I think, and I kind of like the traditional ways of dealing with it. But then that's me, And say we got 9,000 Colvilles. I think everyone's opinion is just as important, or maybe more important than mine. But So I think we need to figure out a process that gets input from all our members, figure out options, and let the members decide. You know, I don't think it's a council decision. I think it's a tribe's decision. So I've heard different ideas about blood quantum. I think traditionally we did adopt people. We did adopt people, and if you came from a different tribe and married into this tribe, adopted customs of this tribe, you were considered the Colville or whatever band you were from. And we actually have court cases saying that. There was a Provo case. This guy was Iroquois Indian. He moved to Colville. Everyone knows kind of the facts, and it was debated probably for decades. Is he Colville or not? You know, or can we make him a Colville? Well, in the end, he was made a Colville, and it went through several votes. Called the Provo case, and the council went back and forth. The courts went back and forth. In the end, it was decided that was just one traditional way of dealing with it. It was decided that he was, for all practical purposes, culturally a Colville. He was a part of the community. He was active. He was made a Colville, and it was an important case because all of his descendants were, you know, that affected their Colville blood quantum, you know. And so I kind of like that idea, and I think a number of tribes do that. They were, if we have sister tribes that have been our partners for 10,000 years, since when did we stop accepting that? You know, I think we need to get back to that. Now it gets a little stickier. Not all tribes are friend tribes. Some tribes are enemy tribes. So I don't know. I don't know how that's going to be dealt with, but it's probably something we're going to deal with. You know, and I think it needs to be the people's decision. Thank you.
Okay. Gee, that's, you know, that's, a lot of people are talking about that. And I'm like Mike, I think everybody, it's important to listen to people's ideas. But when rubber meets the road, whatever they decide to do, if they do a referendum or what have you, I think the language has to be really, really clear. I think that's what a whole lot of people I'm looking at, Inchel, Keller, and the Spiel and everywhere. I think that technically, I think it's the wording and stuff that makes them agree or disagree. Do I think they should lower the blood quantum? Not necessarily. But here again, that might be a reality. I'm for, like the other gentleman says, I am for pro combining all Indian blood. I think we've faced with, I know people in the community that are like Mike and I mean, or the people here, we're mostly full blood, but aren't full Colville. They're they're half Yakima, they're part Colville, and they're part Nez Perce, and all those type of things. But the rules of most tribes, you can only get enrolled if you're a quarter, see? So I do think if they had some language where they adopted all of that blood quantum, and then it doesn't lead to confusion where once you accept, you know, that transfer and that blood quantum, you have to stick with it. You can't claim Yakima, Spokane, and all of those. It has to, because it can really get confusing if you're not, if it all isn't condensed into one Indian blood. So, good discussion. Thank you.
When 7 years ago, I brought this around to every single district and about, you know, talking about the impacts to marrying other natives, because it doesn't matter where you come from, you're still native. And what I found was when I did that micro study that I did just to bring it to the districts was that you could be a full-blooded Indian and not be able to get enrolled anywhere. Just within Washington State, with the sister tribes around us, between us and Coeur d'Alene and Spokane and Yakima and the Kalispels, you could have been from every one of them tribes and not enough native to be enrolled, or your children wouldn't be enough native to be enrolled because they didn't meet the minimum quarter for any of them tribes. And we've had children in our own community, even at this school, that they were probably 3/4 or even closer to 4/4 native, but they had like 7 bands within, or 7 tribes within their blood that eliminated them from being enrolled anywhere, so they were classified as a descendant. I support it. I don't know if I so much support lowering the quantum. I do support adopting all Indian blood. I don't care where you come from. But I do have that feeling in my heart that how far do we expand it out? Do we leave it just in Washington State? Do we leave it just within our reservation? And my fear is the termination era. And right now, this administration that we have would be very adamant about doing that. He's trying to break his own constitution from his forefathers. And termination is real. I was a little girl. Mike's mom was in council when they were fighting it. And I remember that our membership in themselves were fighting. Who's going to sign away the rights of our reservation for $1? And if we open it up to people that have no tie to our reservation, that's a reality. So we need to know how far do we expand it.
So we have one more question to ask, and this is one of our biggest issues in our schools, which it's brought up very often, but it's a problem everyone can agree on. It's one of the biggest issues identified by all of us within our schools and tribe, that the use of drugs and alcohol are getting bigger and bigger, and it's even growing into our middle schools and elementary schools now. So what would you do to take care and help solve this problem? Start with Norma.
You know, we talk about this on a regular basis, and we have close conversations about it. We've actually reached out to the local community police and the sheriff and the counties all across our reservation, trying to see how do we address this. And it can't be dealt with by council. We can't fix this. We are starting the North Star project, which is a holistic correction across the Washington state. Our tribe's one of the pilots for holistic health and community living, healthy community living. And the reason I say that we as council cannot fix this is because we have people who know that their family members are using, dealing, selling, or supplying to kids, but they won't turn their own family members in. And we've asked the police, we know the drug houses, everybody knows what's going on, but nobody will step up and say, we want it to stop, and they won't turn them in. Not because they don't want their families in it, they won't do it because they don't want the retaliation or to be assaulted or abused by these other people. I know kids myself that I know. I pass them in the stores, I pass them, when I'm in town, and I know that their lives aren't healthy. But I think that without us going in and initiating a task force to allow the officers to go back through the schools and do the sweeps, they used to do that when I was in school. I think that if that's what we need to do, then we can work with the schools and do it. We have a signed agreement annually that what we expect out of the school districts with our tribe. And I think that if the kids have this knowledge and if they share it with the teachers, if they can tell the tribe, we can step in. But legally we can't act without people to give written statements.
Good question. That drug and alcohol is hurting our reservation. It's holding us hostage. It's really doing a lot of damage to all families. Even if you're not involved in drug and alcohol, you're affected. We see it every day. I see it every day. We live here in Omak. It's a sad thing. I buy some people, I feel sorry for some of those young ladies, pretty girls, skin thinny, and they go in there and don't have enough money to buy themselves some snacks. So I help them, but we need to really do more than that. And it's like Norma saying, business council can't do all of that. It's going to take a partnership. It's going to take the community. It's going to take a lot of people, a lot of groups coming together and, getting a plan and following it through and to help people, because we're all affected and nobody really has the answers on this. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really tough one, and I think you go every city in the country, probably world, there's big major drug problems visible everywhere. And go down to the littlest towns like ours, the same thing, you know, it's everywhere. I guess one thing that bothered me, I guess, is that even though there's probably never enough money to deal with all the problems, but a lot of the times the federal strategy and state strategies will focus on these big guys, big dealers, high level, very powerful, rich guys, or cartels, or whoever. Pick your bad guy. But then there's kind of like resources when you get down to us, kind of trickle down smaller and smaller and smaller. And like every day I'd hear people, they'd say, "There's people doing drugs right over there, right over there. Why aren't we doing? Everyone knows they're there. Why don't we do nothing about it?" But a lot of the resources would go on getting people several levels up higher, you know. And I guess that's not all bad, but they get caught and locked up. But probably within a couple hours, they've got a new guy sitting in that same place doing the same thing, you know. And so I'm not sure if that gets us anywhere, you know. So I think there needs to be more focus on local, like right in our neighborhoods and right in our towns. And I don't pretend to know all the answers, but it seems like there's a lack of that kind of emphasis. You know, and I'm not happy if there's big drug dealers in Wenatchee or Seattle or wherever, but they need to go to jail too. But we also have people right here, and I know we're kind of aware of some of them, but I just think we need a better program to do that. And then we have drug treatment, but all those things are just tough. And then you look back at the big picture, like, why are people drinking? Why are they drugging? And there's probably lots of reasons, but one reason is there anything better to do around here? Are there any jobs? Is there any hope? People don't have hope. They turn to stuff like that.
I think it's a really important issue. I mean, even for me, because when I was in 8th grade, working summer youth, that's when a lot of my friends started getting into smoking pills and snorting pills and whatever. And I can tell you now that I don't have a high school friend that's not addicted to something, that heroin, and we're not even friends anymore. I don't see them. And so the drug issue it's a epidemic. And I think fostering a better community and helping the kids when they're younger, like 8th grade, 7th grade, 5th grade, finding a way, and I think that goes back to just finding ways to make sure the kids are involved, keeping the kids active, keeping kids into things, sports, technology, computer class, anything. And I think it's just fostering a better community for us. And, yeah.
Okay, now it's time for our closing statements. You guys will have the same amount of time to say what your top priorities if you are elected and how you would plan to achieve them. We'll start with Clayton.
I think my top priority is, because I have kids, and it is about making sure our community is good and great for our kids. I just want more for our community. I really do. I'm young. I don't think I know everything, and that's the only reason why I'm here is because I was thinking about my daughter and thinking about everything and thinking about the future where our district is going, and I just want to find ways to help us, and make sure that we are a priority on, our district. When I say we, and economic development, I guess, would be the way, because we need money. We need money to do these things, and we can't be reliant on the government and the federal government and the state government. Yeah.
I guess I just have a couple things I'd bring up. I don't know if they're my top priorities, but one, you have ideas when you run for something like council, and that's good. You should have that, but once you get on council, there's 13 other council there, and they all got great ideas. And so you have to be able to give and take and have conversations with their councilman, or else you're not going to get nothing done. So a lot of what you do depends on what the other 13 want done, and how does what you want fit in with what they want. And so I think that's important. You have to be able to get along with people, and maybe they're friends, maybe they're not, but you got to do your job and communicate. Then with specific things, I guess to me, I was involved with setting them up, but I think our casinos are just old, and I didn't especially like signs of them when they were built. I mean, that's another thing. You're one person, and everything's like by committee, and I didn't like how they were designed and so forth. But they're definitely getting old now, you know, and I think they could really be improved a lot without a lot of effort. Like we need meeting rooms, we need conference rooms. It's really hard to get into these casinos. How come we can't hold a conference of 300 people? They come and stay there, they gamble, you know, that sort of thing. Maybe there's other ideas. I guess the other big idea that I would like to work on is the school. I was involved with setting up the building. I won't say I did everything. Lots of people worked on it, but we have a nice building here. But I think we need to go the next step and kind of make it a very important school for the Colville tribe. You know, it should be to me, the goal should be there should be the central school of the Colville tribe, and it should be a high school. We should have varsity sports here. You know, I drove through Navajo, or I could drive through other places, but their basketball games, the whole tribe comes out to watch them. The stadiums are packed. It's on radio, probably on TV, but I'd like to see this school be like that. You know, the whole Colville tribe's best players, they should be playing right here, you know. And we should, instead of being a place where no one wants to go, this should be the place where people want to go. Thank you.
You know, I've been talking to a lot of people, and I think it's my priority is a whole lot like a lot of the people are saying out there. I think it's drug and alcohol is a big issue. I don't know how we're going to address it, but we need to start putting on our thinking hats and do something about that. The first step is a treatment center, but you know, a lot of that people go there just to stay out of jail, court order, and those type of things. But we've got to get help for those that really need help. And when you're addicted, like I'm addicted to smoking a lot of times, I mean, that's easier said than done. It's hard to get away from that. And how do you reach those people? It's going to take all of us to do that. Another area I'm very interested in is healthcare. You know, I think as we, from cradle to grave, we all need healthcare. So I'd like to see that our infrastructures, all of those people, our services, all get better, starting by answering your phone, and so that we can maximize our healthcare services to our membership. I've run a lot of programs, was a department supervisor and a program manager, and a lot of the programs that we serve, what people don't really understand is that in a lot of our programs, Indian Health Service, drug and alcohol programs, you're funded more money the more people you serve. It's a numbers game. And I think what kind of hurts the tribe, they sure enjoy the luxury of 4 days on and 1 day off, but I don't think that's really helping people that really need a lot of these services. So I'm a kind of a critique with some of the people for 410s. You know, I don't think we're maximizing the services and doing as good a job as we can.
I wanted my full 2 minutes. You know, it's a lot, and there's so much. There's no way that any one person can take on the task, but my priorities first and foremost have been health. That's why we continue to push for the clinic and the opportunity to get us birth to 3 and Head Start building for themselves, because they were here in this building in borrowed space, which was good. I love this school. I went to school not in this new building, but at the old school. And it was unsafe in my eyes for the little tiny people to be going up and down the stairwell and everything. It wasn't built for that. So to ensure that we keep them funded, to ensure that we don't lose any more resources that are important to us. And the drug and alcohol has just got out of control. It's critical. when I brought up the North Star project, that's volunteer, community volunteer for us to group together to see how we help our community. Every district is tasked with that. Housing is priority. We ourselves need housing, and also the people that we're trying to come here to work for us, because if they have no home to live in, they're not going to stay. They won't even take the job. And I'm talking about doctors, teachers, lawyers, anybody of a profession. And then to ensure that if the budgets are cut at the federal and state level, how we ensure that the services that are helping our tribal people reintroduce ourselves back into our language, culture, and our resources stay intact so that we don't cut them as a priority. We always can share duties, but we can't save what's dying out within our tribe, so it's important.
Yeah, thank you guys for participating and coming today. Thank you for sharing your opinions and everything. We wish you good luck and thank you all for coming. Safe travels home.